welcome everybody to Coffee with Centuro. Siraj Zain, thanks for jumping in. I hit a mid-afternoon hit a bit of a wall this afternoon, so I'm glad we had this scheduled in conveniently for me to get a pick me up.
Let me help you with a pick me up there, Ben. I've been thinking about this for so long because we've got the Englishman, the Australian, and the South African. It's like the starting punchline of a joke. But more importantly, I just want to say that Mr. Zain Ali represents England, the current cricket world champs, and I represent South Africa, the current rugby world champs. Exactly what is Australia the world champs of? The didgeridoo or the boomerang, the boomerang competition, throwing competition? I know you over a period of time you probably have it on us, but right now I'm sitting comfortably here with my coffee. Thank you.
Yeah, I might just have to leave you have it then. To be honest, I'm not quite sure where we're dominating. Take you out in the surf competition, I guess. We'll might have to get you out in the water.
Cool.
Yeah.
No. On to business. I thought I'd just start off with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I do think maybe that becomes our tagline: as a South African, an Englishman, and an Aussieman sit down for a coffee and talk business. There's no punchline.
Yeah, that's pretty good tagline.
Yeah. Walk into a coffee bar and talk business.
Yeah. Well,
on
who
that
wants to
note,
kick us off?
Yeah, I was going to say it's been in the news recently. Obviously, that it's all been expected, but the UK is officially now in a recession. No one was surprised by that, but some of the statistics that came out were pretty stark. So it's actually the deepest recession the UK's had in its history, and it's the worst of any G7 country. So, I mean, if you actually look at the figures, between, I think in the second quarter, the UK's GDP decreased by 20.4%, which is more than double than the US, which was around 9.5%. You've got France and Italy around 12-13%. So it's quite a stark difference. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Why has the UK been hit so much compared to other G7 countries when the whole world has been suffering through COVID?
What I wanted to ask you about this is it the GDP as in the actual GDP? It doesn't directly relate to the stimulus package, or does it? Is it got to do with how much money was paid out as well, or is it more just the country shut down and didn't generate?
Yeah, I think it's just general, the GDP official statistics from April to June, the state of the country. So the impact of all the stimulus packages is probably not accounted for because that will come in later. But either way, they have declared that we are in recession.
Sure. I mean, could it be that the UK is so well connected and is such a global city that when you shut down globally, it kind of brings you down? The impact is much harder. Whereas, let's say that the US they're massive, but they're massive consumers of themselves. They're big enough to kind of generate enough revenue from themselves, whereas the UK is quite a small country that punches way above their weight and does so much international that when that shuts down and all the borders shut down, you get hit by it the hardest.
Yeah, I guess almost as obviously London's quite a bit of a hub, being the center point as well. So yeah, is us shutting down a bit different to somewhere in Spain shutting down with maybe not as much international traffic going through it and transaction going through it, that both parties shutting down, it's affected a bit more?
I think one of the things is we took so long to shut down compared to other countries. So, I mean, all the data was there. The strategy was to go for herd immunity, but also there are a lot of fears in the UK government that if we do lock down, the economy will be hit. So let's delay that as much as possible. The issue is, by delaying it so long, it then meant the country suffered more. So the lockdown ended up being a lot longer than would have been desirable, which obviously meant a lot of businesses were suffering for a longer period than they would otherwise have been. So not only has the economy been hit, we've got probably the most deaths in Europe as a percentage of the population, I think. So it's kind of just been a bit of a disaster economically and in terms of health because of the strategy that did revolve around the economy. And now that you think a second wave is potentially looming, next year we've got the fallout from Brexit yet to come, the impact of that to come in. So there's a lot of questions about the current state of the UK as a country or as a nation to do business in.
Mm.
Yet your currency is still the strongest currency in the world, right?
Who knows why? But that's the other
you
thing.
kind of go, well.
I wonder if we're going to jump back in faster maybe than other recessions, because a lot of sort of unemployment numbers and so forth at the moment are obviously from redundancies and the amount of people hiring is a lot lower, but it's not from necessarily a lack of desire. It's from a lack of, being able to be open and so forth. So we're just starting to open up bars again, waiters and so forth are going back. As more places start to open, they'll start to hire back again. So is there a potential for a faster increase though from this recession than from a more traditional recession in the market, and a lot, the joblessness seems a lot more permanent or long term maybe?
Yeah, I think the position that the UK was in before the lockdown was very strong. So even though everybody knew Brexit was coming, we were financially doing quite well. The currency had recovered and was quite strong. So now that this has happened, that's a good point, Ben. We could see that we're in a better position to recover compared to a lot of other countries, which will bring that rate back up quickly. So that's just something we're gonna have to wait and see. And whether Brexit, the impact of whatever the trade deal that's negotiated is, there's a bit of talk at the moment about the financial sector. Is there going to be they're using the term equivalence? So whatever the different deals are that are done between the financial markets throughout the EU, is it this kind of covered by the same regulation, or will each sector have to do different negotiations with different countries? So that will have a massive impact on banks and the kind of financial services sector. So I think we're in a position where we will be able to bounce back quickly, but it does depend on other factors. The furlough scheme will be coming to an end soon, probably. Will that result in mass unemployment, which will hit the economy even more? I mean, there's a lot of unknowns at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do if places start opening back up, coming off furlough because they've got the opportunity, and then they start going back into lockdown. But also because there's the potential that we'll now do it as a regional lockdown rather than a nationwide. How does that then affect? Are you going to regional furlough if they want to re-amp it up and so forth? What do you think, Siraj? You guys just opened to a new level of lockdown in South Africa. What do you think's gonna?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm sitting here thinking is that there is no place to hide, right? So if you were to look at it and go, the UK has got the worst recession, but so what? You want to be in the US? I don't know. So if you're going, where exactly do you want to be? Is the thing. I don't know where the best place is. South Africa is and Africa in general. We're in a very difficult situation in that the economy and it was struggling at the best of times before COVID. When this hit, it really put an extra nail in the coffin. So we're really battling. Plus, the incentivize and the stimulus package from the government hasn't been as strong as the UK. When chatting with some of our clients in Canada, I was talking about this, and they said, yes, you kind of also have to weigh up the fact that for what they felt in Canada was that the government is paying so much out now, and it's great for right now, but 3 generations to come will be paying for it. So whereas in South Africa there isn't that much to give, and therefore the burden won't be as great going in the years to come. It's really is you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, I think that's probably what everyone's finding out. Everyone's probably in a difficult. There's some obvious cases, New Zealand locked down hard and went fast, and they're being praised for the efforts. But it seems obvious in hindsight that was the right thing to do. But could the UK have done it? Would it have even been better off in a different way? We're never going to really know, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's quite telling as well that there's. I don't know if is it Women's Month all around the world at the moment, and it's definitely Women's Month in South Africa. It's a big celebration of that. But you mentioned New Zealand, and they have probably one of the most impressive prime ministers that in the world at the moment. Jacinda, I can't think of her surname. Our trusted US president went out and chirped that places are spiking, and even New Zealand is spiking their cases, and she just came back and just boom hit him right now today as she released something just saying, so sorry, our daily rate is the US has every 22 seconds the amount that we took in a day. So please, can we not compare what's happening now? So I just think is one very impressive person. I mean, having all the things she's had to deal with, which is, I think it was an earthquake, a terror attack, COVID, and all of that, during that she gave birth and breastfed her child in Parliament. It really is taking things to a totally another level.
Yeah, gotta love someone who's happy to sort of snap back a little bit, bring some character to the political game.
So I'd love to hear what Trump comes back with, because I'm sure he will.
Some nonsense, I'm sure. What did you want to bring that to the table? Pass this on to?
No, I think we were going to discuss that. If you are looking at where you want to grow anyway, where are some of the countries that you might want to move to? I mean, we're saying that the UK got Brexit and the worst recession. So would you want to go anywhere else, and where might that be? And Zane, you were sharing with us, some of the countries that are in the top 50 places to go, and there's some interesting ones that we wouldn't necessarily think are near the top. New Zealand is right at the top. So New Zealand is kind of one of the top countries to kind of grow and expand into. And I think, Zane, I think you shared it with us. What are they looking for when they rating this as a country? Is it the easiest entry? Is it the best place to do business?
Yeah, there's a whole host of factors. So, I mean, these are all important considerations any business should have when thinking about entering a new market anyway. But the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index, that covers a whole bunch of issues. So, I mean, one of them is, if you want to start a business, what's the ease of the procedures, the timing, the cost, you've got, how do they protect investors? What are the legal rights? What are the tax issues? So they go through all of these different things. And then also a couple of the other areas they consider, because there's differences between continents, but obviously in certain areas you've got to look at things like even electricity. How easy is it to get your internet connection? What infrastructure is available for you to do certain things? So all of these areas are collected, weighed up, and then they determine the ease of business. But one of the things the World Bank doesn't do is look at kind of other wider economic factors. So they don't look at the country necessarily on a global scale in the sense of, what's their GDP and that side of things. They look at very specific factors about how easy is it to set up a business. So I don't have the list in front of me either, but I remember seeing that I think Georgia was 7th on the list, but it was actually, when it's ranked by starting a business, Georgia actually comes number 2 in the whole world. It's the second easiest country in the entire world to set up a business, I think, after New Zealand. Which was very surprising to me, just because I'd never really thought about Georgia as a hub for business. But that shows you this index, the way it's ranked is more about, the ease of doing business.
Let me just open this Excel spreadsheet. Can you see that?
It's coming up now, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there, as you said, Georgia is 7th, which is one of those where you wouldn't really expect it. I think New Zealand, even Singapore, I hear amazing things. You can start a business with all paperwork within one day. You can have a business up and running, bank accounts, tax, everything else.
Yeah, our partners in Singapore, actually, there's no paperwork. It's fully digital. They're one of the first governments to start accepting e-signatures for legal documents and so forth. So you don't have to hand in anything at all. You can do it all online via online services, which is quite powerful.
Okay. The Korea's in number 5. Does that surprise you guys?
Yeah.
I wasn't that surprised, to be honest, because Korea is quite strategically placed, in Asia between, China and some of the other countries, but obviously it's a democracy, and they're quite very, very developed as well and forward thinking. I mean, I probably wouldn't have guessed it would be number 5, but that being said, equally, I'm not surprised. They're massive, obviously. The obvious industries you've got, K-pop, they've got kind of unique fashion, music, that kind of entertainment sphere is a massive industry, particularly consumed by other Asian countries. But other than that, yeah, it is a bit of a surprise, I guess.
But don't you think they all what I find quite nice with them is that they float under the radar. They're not really they kind of don't upset the United States. They don't upset China too much. Yet they have Samsung, Hyundai, Kia, which are three absolutely massive brands that are going out there. But you never kind of have a feeling that Trump's going to say, "Oh, let's ban Samsung," as the way he's doing with China. And I know there's the real political kind of views there, but I think that's one of the reasons why they're probably there as well. They kind of float under the radar. They play nicely with everyone, yet they're delivering really good products. I mean, if you think of a good couple of years ago, before the Hyundais and the Samsungs of this world, they were making Daewoo cars. Did you guys ever have Daewoo car?
No.
Daewoo were one of those that in South Africa they made microwaves and cars, which was like the most bizarre thing. And we often kind of went when if we saw someone driving a Daewoo, it was like, yeah, can you warm up my pie or something? I don't know. It was, it's anyway. I think they've turned it around. Any other surprises up there? I think for me, Lithuania, number 11.
Yeah, I mean, even Mauritius at number 13. I know we've spoken in the past and you've mentioned Mauritius, Siraj, but again, my immediate impression of Mauritius is more of a kind of a holiday resort.
Yeah.
So it's not really top of my mind of, that's a place to do business. I think it's quite interesting seeing it there.
So Mauritius made a conscious effort a couple of years ago to change it became a tax haven. So it's one of those places where they went, we need investment here besides the beaches. Let's make this a tax haven. So a lot of African countries went and launched and started their businesses in Mauritius. Plus, there's a very strong relationship due to the kind of francophone country in that they're French as well. So there's a strong relationship with France, and so there's big ties there. But the last time I was in Mauritius 25 years ago on holiday, and the downtown.
Showing your age there.
Yeah, I know. Port Louis was tiny then, and it was really just a holiday resort. The country was, and now it's a massive booming city, and everybody wants to start businesses there. But they're quite strict and how's this is one of those criteria where if you want to start a business in Mauritius, you have to have your AGM, your annual general meeting in Mauritius. And whenever I speak to companies in South Africa and I mention this as one of the options, they go, "Oh, so is this a downside? We have to go to Mauritius every year to have our AGM?" I'm like, "Oh, well, sign me up." So Again, I think it's quite clever in the way they do that, is that you can start something there, get the tax breaks, but you're always coming back. You're always having your meetings there. Yeah, it's pretty clever.
Okay. Siraj, is Argentina anywhere further down on that list?
It would be under my desk if I were to do that, Ben. It's off the screen and further down under my desk. I don't think Argentina is going to be on too many lists at the moment.
Well, actually, it's on my list.
Okay.
To slightly steal the transition there. So interestingly on this, I think Zane's right, and a lot of it's on the ease of setup and so forth. So I was speaking with some partners in Egypt as well. Didn't make the list, so they might have to keep working on it. But they were saying, obviously, the governments are motivated, and it would be a big motivation for pretty much every government to get as many tech companies and startups and so forth into the country. So it's a case of they're all setting up programs to make it super easy to set up a business, reduce the friction on getting in, and using virtual office space and so forth is becoming a lot more common. So I think that's where a lot of those countries that are slightly not your first guess of where you'd want to go, slipping in and trying to get probably a bit of a competitive advantage and go, well, look, we'll slightly undercut from a sales point of view, if you want to think of it that way, what these other big major places are doing, and we'll just make it easier for you. So why not come here? The reason I mentioned Argentina was so on the other end, CB Insights put together their 2020 list of the 50 unicorns that are likely to be formed, and it's not a full comprehensive list. They're not saying these are the only ones ever to be made, but 2% of those were from Argentina, which I think gives them one. But 1 out of 50 for Argentina for a £1 billion or dollar company, I think is pretty good. So I had a little bit of a look at the list, just to have a look at where these sort of, unicorns are popping up. And as I said, it's not a fully comprehensive list because I noticed Gymshark aren't on there, but just the other day, that's a UK started leisure brand, just hit over $1 billion. They didn't make the list, but I don't know if they're focusing on tech and so forth. But I thought that was a pretty good achievement from a guy 19 years old, started in 2009 in the UK. Got it to $1 billion in 9 years, 10 years? What did I say? Yeah. Yeah. So
you see, those are the stories that hit the news, right? The 19-year-old that makes $1 billion, and then you have gray-haired guys like me trying to make a living, and crunching my way in close to my 50s, trying to start businesses. And but the interesting fact is that the average age of founders, successful founders. Anyone take a guess? Have we discussed this?
36, but that's I don't. Yeah.
I would have said mid-40s.
Yeah, 46. So the average age of successful founders is actually 46, which is, and you get these anomalies of the unicorns that hit the media and everything else, but it is kind of at that 46-year-old. So I mean, Ben, you've got at least 20 years to get there, and Zan has got about 15. But I think there's it's interesting that that's that midlife crisis almost, right? Someone who's lived through an entire corporate career, learned a hell of a lot, worked at his network, found something, and then went out and started something in his mid 40s. It's quite a nothing. I know it wasn't on what we were going to chat about, but I think that's quite interesting.
You're right. I mean, these kind of, when you get young founders doing so well, it is an anomaly. And actually, when you look at anyone or any company that becomes a unicorn, I saw a stat that said there's a 0.00006% chance of a company becoming $1 billion company, which just shows how rare it really is. So even though this list is like suggesting these are the 50 potential future unicorns, it doesn't actually mean they all will become unicorns. But who knows? Maybe it'll become more of a common thing as we go along. I mean, so more opportunities with tech.
Yeah, so interestingly, CB Insights did the list in 2015. They seemed to do it once and then pick back up on it in 2019, or I've missed the other years. But from their 2015 list, 52% of the 50 they listed went on to become $1 billion companies. So they've got some sort of good model. Actually, they call it a mosaic algorithm. They check the market, the financial health of the business, and then the traction they're getting. From their 2019 list, 34% so far have gone on to hit the billion. Obviously, a bit of head start on the 2015 list. Oh, sorry, the 2015 list had a head start, but yeah, there's couple of companies. Oh, UK is the second largest, with a big old 3 of the list. The US is obviously leading the way. 70% of the companies on their list are from the US. UK's got 3, Germany's got a few, Australia's got 2, so does India. Interestingly, they've only got 1 from China. And then everything else goes a bit smaller than that. Argentina's on there for 1 as well. But the big areas we've got to be looking out for are enterprise big data and fintech, at 30% and 20% respectively. And then after that, it goes to like healthcare and hardware at 8% each as well. So should be interesting to see. I did actually see one of the companies on here has already hit the billion, company called Gong. They work with remote sales teams and give you better analytics and insights over your remote sales teams, check their performance and understand who's converting well and all sorts of stuff. So I think that's a natural fit for the current state of market and where everyone's working and so forth. But yeah, I just thought that was quite interesting to look at the breakdown.
I was reading some other news as well, and there's a list that Forbes put out of the top 7 highest TikTok earners, and they're all teenagers, right? And I mean, we're talking about young people who are in college that are making $5 million doing funny dances on TikTok. $5 million. That's what the leading Addison Rae Easterling, if anybody wants to follow her, is $5 million. And then the number 2 is 4 million, and her sister is number 3 at 3 million. So between the two of them, they've made $7 million doing little dances on TikTok. It's just phenomenal. It kind of hurts my brain when I think about it.
I think what that's identifying, I mean, the age is people quickly getting onto new technology, obviously. So a lot of the older generations will be like, I don't know what this is, I'm staying off it. But really, I think it's an example.
Thanks, Ben. I can feel that target. Whoa.
Yeah.
Targeted
We were
right
talking
at me.
earlier
Okay.
about working out if I could see. I don't know if you're here for me or here for me on the video, but I'll look at you. But I think what it identifies is the globalization of audiences and attention, though, as well, right? Like, these apps can reach millions and millions of people now because the world is so connected. So what can be such a small thing as, advertising pays, cents per thousands of views and so forth. But when you're working in such a globalized, now connected market, the revenue potential for anything is astronomical. I think that's the same for businesses. And, what we're looking to do as a company is connect everybody in the world so they have that opportunity to have a global footprint, because then the potential for work out there just, it has to be astronomical, exponential, because once you're outside your country, the whole world's literally your oyster. So I think that's where the differentiation comes in, of where people, even, before YouTube and stuff, didn't expect it to be a real job. But as long as you can get a decent little slice of the pie, but because the pie is so big, you'll get a small slice as a million people watching you, and that's a huge amount of attention, which is hugely valuable to companies and to advertisers and so forth. So
yeah, I think the evolution of that particular space is interesting as well. So I mean, we started off with YouTube, where you could upload all sorts of videos, long form, short form, typically more than a few minutes on average. And then came along Vine, which was, I think, 60-second videos. 6-second videos, sorry. Then Instagram introduced a video feature, which was 60 seconds. Twitter bought Vine. And then the thing with Instagram is it's very curated. So most people typically would post pictures to demonstrate a particular lifestyle, but it's typically your best pictures. And TikTok came along, and it was more, you don't worry about how you portray yourself in a particular way. It's all about having fun. It's about, do fun things, pranks, dances, or, whatever it is. And other people have used it for B2C, for business as well. So it's brilliant for anyone selling a product. If you want to target Gen Z, the younger generation, that shows personality of your business, of your company. We're going to get involved with these trends. We're down with the kids. We're going to do these dances or fun things or make you laugh, and we're going to do it within 15 seconds. So that kind of also correlates with how people's attention spans have changed massively over the years now. So you now need to capture people within the first 5, 10, 15 seconds if you've got any chance.
Yeah. So what's really interesting is, one, just to chuck in the other step there, is Snapchat. So I think I was listening to the founders of Instagram on a podcast not long ago, and that obviously did start off as people showing photographs, but then I think you're right. At first, I think Facebook was slightly similar. It was more personal sharing, but then it became so scale. People didn't want to share their flaws and so forth, so then you just stopped posting. And then Instagram, their organic growth has slowed down, or the potential for organic reach on Instagram is slower now as well for companies compared to what it was. I think then that's where Snapchat stepped in, and because the idea was it got deleted after someone watched it, then it becomes more just, hey, look at this little thing. It's not a permanent record, even if it's not that you want to show something stupid or what its original purpose was for, but it's more just it was a short bit of story, and here it is. And then obviously that's waned as well, and TikTok has stepped in. The interesting thing for businesses on TikTok, and where I think some of the views changed, their algorithms, I want to say so good. I don't know the specifics of it and so forth, but So I am on there, but what people have started doing
What's
is...
your username?
Yeah. I'll let you know afterwards. I don't do anything yet. But what people are starting to refer to is, because the algorithm shows you videos similar to the other content you watch, you do end up in a bit of a niche. And then so what they start referring to is those niches as something TikTok. So there's like book TikTok, there's business TikTok. So they're referring to this as once you end up in this sort of lane, you kept getting shown business content. And then so like I will often stop and watch a full 1 minute's longest video if someone's talking about investment and so forth. So I end up getting a lot of investment videos, business videos, people giving advice, tips on marketing and so forth.
Okay,
So
Ben, you don't have to try and convince me that you're on business TikTok.
Yeah.
We know that you probably
We know you're
on
doing dance.
kind of K-pop TikTok, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm not letting my name out. Don't worry. I'm gonna go private my account right now just in case.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think it's the interesting thing on that is that when I looked at this list and you see they're making $5 million and $4 million, I think it's crazy that people are paying them for that. But if you drill down a little bit, you find out that there's actually a real business behind it. So a lot of them quickly got their following up and then launched a clothing brand, then launched a makeup brand, and they signed endorsement deals and kind of real world business off the back of TikTok. Now for me, that's interesting because we kind of write it off to this young thing, and it's like, I don't understand it. But if you go back to it, they've got singing careers, they're launching music, the really good guys are, but they use it to get a quick following, then they capitalize while they are famous, so to speak.
They're building a brand, but it's
Yep.
a personal brand.
Yep.
So then, they quickly, and a lot of it's often, a Shopify store. So there was recently, was it Kendall Jenner or one of the Kardashian, and there's like, she might be like a billionaire almost. She's worth 900 million. But all her thing was basically a white label makeup fashion set that she found and got exclusive, put her label on it, used a Shopify store, and then had enough of a following that as long as if you're getting millions of views, you only need to convert 5% of that to be getting 20,000, a lot of hits per month. And then you're all of a sudden got a high value brand. It's interesting.
Yeah, that angle is quite interesting as well. So I don't know if you heard recently about, or if you've heard in general about drop shipping. So it's this kind of business model where people essentially set up a brand. They sell a product, but they don't have to see the product. They don't have to handle the product. You can go on Alibaba, you can find it in China in a warehouse. You just market that. When the orders come in, you then essentially have the product shipped to that person. And so many people have made millions and millions through doing this, just through viral campaigns where you go to an influencer on Instagram or TikTok and you say, hey, I'll give you a percentage commission. Can you just promote this product? That product gets promoted to this massive audience. People buy it, orders come in. You don't have to worry about any of the overheads or the costs. You ship the product over and you're making millions. There is obviously the risk for, lack of quality of product, counterfeits. Some orders don't even arrive to the person that's put the order in. So it's an interesting space.
Yeah, at that point, you just have to be the marketing and salesperson to build the brand, and then have fulfillment centers and dropship companies do the rest. It's quite interesting, yeah. That not enjoying it and loving it. Yeah. Well, we've got an audience to think of. We're trying to build a brand here before we launch our t-shirt company, Coffee with Centuro, or I suppose we'll start with mugs. That'll make sense. I'm still waiting for mine, Zane.
I'm working on my dance. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's it. You hit TikTok, we'll get Instagram, and before you know it, we'll have a dropshipping company set up. Yeah. All right.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Cool, guys.
Right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week.
Yes.
Bye.